Hello everyone and welcome to the second part of the tutorial. So now we have something special to analyze, that is the one of the problems that was posted last year at the final exam of Macro 3. As you can see, June 14, 2019, this is exactly the problem that was out there at the exam. So now we are going to solve it together. Of course, remember the main idea here is that first you solve each point yourself and then you check the answer, okay? Else it makes no sense to just to copy paste the results, because then you will not learn anything, okay? So just be sure that you just follow those steps, that you first solve it yourself and then you check the answer. Of course, this year's exam would be a bit different. There will be a problem that will be very similar to what we will solve today, but of course not identical. So okay, learning by heart makes no sense as well. Okay, so what do we have here? We have economy that is described by the demand equation, and then exact equations for consumption, investment, net exports, money demand, and some additional variables that are important to plug in different parts of the model. So we will have both the goods market and the financial market. So this, of course, rings a bell, the ISLM economy in the short run, at least in the beginning, okay? So let's write down the first equations and let's try to answer the first point, which asks us to derive the goods market equilibrium, the IS curve in the form that output is a function of the interest rate. Then there is a question, what combinations of interest rate and output does this curve represent, okay? So now let's write down the equations. So we know that output in the equilibrium is equal to the total demand, which is equal to consumption plus investment plus governmental expenditures plus net exports. But using the equations that we have listed out there, we can simply write 200, this is consumption, times 0.8 times 1 minus tax rate, which is also 0.8, times y, this is consumption, plus investment, 300 minus 1000 R, plus governmental expenditures equal to 80, plus net exports, and this is export 60 minus 0.04 y minus 1000 R. Okay, so this is the total output equal to total demand. So now we clean things up. So we add things which we can add up. So it's 200, 500, 580, 640 plus 0.64y minus 0.04, 0.6y, and minus 2000R. As simple as this. Okay? And now we can clean things up. Putting y on the left-hand side gives us 0.4y equal to 640 minus 2000R. Okay? Now, why I put it like this? Because now we are going to divide both sides by 1 over 0.4, which is 2.5. And this 2.5 is a very important number, as you know. This is not any number. This is the multiplier in the economy. And this will be useful in the following points. So we have the multiplier 2.4 times 640 minus 2000 R. Of course, we can put it in an explicit form that is equal to 1600 minus 5000 R. Okay, but what is important is to remember that we still have there a multiplier hidden, which is kind of important. So we have the IS curve. So this is our IS curve. Now the interpretation, what is characteristic about those Y's and R's that belong to this IS curve? Of course, you know it very well. These are the points YR for which, so those points YR belong to the IS curve if and only if for those points there is the goods market equilibrium. Okay, so the demand and the supply of goods are equal. And this is the interpretation of the IS curve. Okay, cool. So this was A. Now let's move to B. Maybe I should put it like this. Okay. So in B, we are asked about a symmetric thing, but on the financial market. So let's derive the LM curve in the form y equal to a function of an interest rate. And once again, we are asked about the interpretation of the points that are lying on this particular curve. So what we have to equalize here is money demand and money supply. We have equations for both of them. Okay, we know that money supply is exogenously given and is equal to 120. And the money demand is a function of output and the interest rate. So it's 0.2y minus 4000 R. Okay, and now we can write things down in a more neat way. But this is also this form that you have out there is also okay, of course. So we know that y would be equal to 600 plus 20,000 R. This is the LM curve, and once again, the interpretation y R belong to LM if and only if financial market is in equilibrium. Fantastic. Okay, as simple as this. For this, you get already 10 points. Boom. Point C is also kind of simple. Find the output and the interest rate of the equilibrium in the economy. So we know that we have to have IS and LM fulfilled simultaneously, which means that we have a set of two equations, y equal to 1600 minus 5000 R, and the second equation, y equal to 600 plus 20,000 R. And now we have to solve this system of two equations with two unknowns. Very simple. Let's say we can take the first equation and subtract the second one, so that we will get 0 is equal to 1000 minus 25,000 R. And this immediately gives us that R is equal to 1 over 25, which is 0.04. Okay? And having R, we just plug it into either of the two equations, so that y is equal to 1600 minus 5000 times 0.04. This is something close to 200, which means that the equilibrium output is equal to 1400. Okay, and that's all. This is 15 points, 15% of points that you can get at the whole exam. Kind of easy, no? But there are still more easy things to be done as well. So we have point D, compute the equilibrium value of net exports. What is the international trade balance? So in D, I give you 3 points for just plugging things into the equation. Yeah, so we have the definition of net exports equal to 60 minus 0.004 y, and y in the equilibrium is 1400, minus 4000 times r. In our case, it's 0.04. Okay, so we just compute this, and you get that net exports in the equilibrium is equal to minus 36, and you have to simply state that that there is a trade deficit of minus 36. Easy. I tell you, this is a very easy exam. The only problem is that you don't have much time to do all this stuff, okay? But in general, it's a very easy exam to pass. Okay, so let's move on. E, assume that the central bank increases the money supply to ms prime equal to 300. Okay, so we have ms prime equal to 300. Simultaneously, the government aims at fighting trade deficit. In this situation, what change in governmental expenditure G is required to balance the trade? Okay, so what we are going to have also that is going to change in the economy is the governmental expenditure, which will be equal to G plus delta G. Okay, and what the government wants to achieve is trade balance instead of trade deficit in the initial equilibrium. All right. So there are two things that are happening in the economy. There is a monetary increase in money supply, so monetary expansion, and there is a change in the fiscal policy. We still don't know whether it's going to be a fiscal contraction or fiscal expansion, but you can have your predictions what should be the case because you have to increase the net exports to the level of zero from the level of minus 34, 36. Okay. Okay, cool. So now we have to compute this delta G, but of course, remember that we have to be a new equilibrium, in a new equilibrium in the after this fiscal and monetary policy change. So we will have a new IS equation, a new LM equation, and an X equation that will give us some insights about the new trade balance. Okay, so let's first focus on the IS equation. And now it is very useful to go back to this in notation that we had over here with the multiplier. Once again, remember there is a multiplier hidden in the IS equation. So every increase in governmental expenditures in the equilibrium has to be multiplied by the multiplier. If you put delta G in this form of the total demand equation, this is incorrect. Right? This is obvious that it's not correct, not correct. This is incorrect. So remember, don't be fooled by this very simple substitution here. Remember about the multiplier. Delta G is not increasing output linearly, one-to-one. It's increasing delta G times the multiplier, okay? So forget about this. This is incorrect. Always remember about the multiplier. If you don't remember about the multiplier, just derive the whole IS equation from scratch, from zero, okay? But it takes time. And once again, at the exam, one of the most precious resource is time. All right, so we have the new IS equation. Cool. You know what? I will change notation a bit. I will not use delta G because it takes too much time to write it down. I will just put X here, small x, not capital X. Capital X is export. Small x, so that I can, write it down more efficiently. Now, what are the changes to the LM curve in the new equilibrium? Well, the changes in money supply. So we have now, instead of MS, we have MS prime, which is equal to 300, but the demand equation is the same as before. So let's take the lazy way and just put the new money supply after monetary expansion. And what about net exports? We still have one piece of information that we have to use. That is that net exports is equal to zero. So we know that in the new equilibrium, the government wants to have a situation in which 60 minus 0.04y minus, no, I don't remember, 1000 R is equal to zero. All right. So what do we have now? We have three equations with three unknowns. Our unknown is the new level of output, the new level of the interest rate, and the new level of the governmental expenditures, here depicted by the change in governmental expenditures. Remember that the new level is G prime equal to old level plus the delta G, which we substitute with the small x so that I don't have to put too many things on the equations, okay? So how to proceed with this? Well, let's take one of the, we could use those two equations, equalize them, and compute y. Maybe this is a good thing to do. So let's write down this LM equation. So it's 300 equal to 0.2y minus 4000r. Okay, this is the LM equation. And the nx equal to 0 equation, we will simply multiply by 4, the left and the right hand side. So we will have 0 equal 240 minus 0.16y minus 4000r. Fair enough. What we can do here is simply subtract the second equation from the first equation. So we will have that 300 would be equal to 0.2y, and we are subtracting the right hand side of the equation, which is minus 240 plus 0.16y. Okay, and the 4000r is disappearing. Okay, so we have that 540 is equal to 0.36y, and we immediately have our new level of equilibrium output, which is 500. Isn't it too big? Maybe it is. Which is 540 over 0.36. 1500. Wow. By the way, one more hint for the exam. Remember that all the problems that are at the exam, all the results that you get at the exam are round numbers. I'm preparing those problems and questions in such a way that there are always going to be round numbers. If you get something crazy like 0.254789, this means that you have some algebraic error before and your result is not correct. Remember, and this is something that you have to stick to and remember really strongly, at the exam you will always get round results, nice round results, okay? This is the rule. Okay, so we have the new equilibrium output equal to 1500. We can immediately compute the new level of the interest rate, R equal to what? 0.2 from the first equation times 1500 minus 300, and here everything is over 4000. Okay, so this is the new level of the interest rate, and we will get that this interest rate is equal to 0. Exactly 0. And the last thing that has to be computed is this change in governmental expenditures. This is exactly what we are asked to do. So we can compute it from the first equation, knowing that on the left-hand side we have 1500, on the right-hand side we have 2.5 times 640. Ah, shit, I shouldn't have. 2.5 times 640, which is 1600, plus 2.5x minus 2000r, but we know that r is equal to 0, so we don't care. And now we can easily compute that x, small x, is equal to minus 100 over 2.5, which is equal to minus 40. Okay, so the new governmental expenditure, G prime, would be equal to G plus X is equal to, what was G? 80. 40. Yeah. And this is exactly in line with our intuition. We expected that the governmental expenditure should decrease to decrease the demand in the home country, to decrease the import, so that the home country can get rid of this trade deficit. All right. So retrospectively, we know that this is in line with what we actually expected. All right. So we have the G that is required to balance the trade. Now, depict the initial and the new equilibrium graphically using the YR, YZ, and YNX coordinates. So a bit of painting in Microsoft Paint. Fantastic. We focus on the left-hand side only, and we have this RY, ZY, and NXY planes that we want to analyze the initial and the new equilibrium. So in the initial equilibrium, I already put some lines. In the RY plane, this is the ISLM plane, so that here we have the downward sloping IS curve and the upward sloping LM curve. In the ZY plane, which represents only the goods market, we have the 45 degree line, this gray thin line. We also have the total demand for domestic goods ZZ and the domestic demand for domestic goods DD. And we also have the net exports line that represents the value of net exports, which is exactly the difference between the ZZ and the DD curve. We also know that the initial equilibrium point, which is the crossing of the ISLM, because in the equilibrium we have to have both ISLM fulfilled. I guess I don't have to repeat this, right? ISLM at the same time. We have a situation in which there is a trade deficit because the DD curve is above the ZZ curve, all right? And we have those values just here, okay? I'll just take it back. All right, so what is happening in the economy? Many things are happening in the economy. In fact, two important things. We have monetary expansion and fiscal contraction. Plus, we know what are the initial levels of output, of the equilibrium output, which is 1,400. Yeah, is it? It should be, yes, 1,400. And we know that in the initial equilibrium, there was a trade deficit, and this is something that we already have on the graph. And the initial level of the interest rate was 0.04. Okay, it's this horizontal line that is coming from the equilibrium point. Okay, cool. So what is happening? Two things. We have monetary expansion and we have fiscal contraction. So first of all, how to depict monetary expansion in this graph? Of course, we can do it by using our LM curve. Okay, so the new LM prime curve would be somewhere here. Okay, cool. So what happens to the IS curve? Well, the IS curve is also changing its actual location because we have fiscal contraction and it should be parallel. So we have the IS prime curve somewhere here. And of course, I'm drawing it in a way, in an incorrect way. Jesus Christ. Let me just redraw it. This will be fast. Okay. So we have the new LM curve. All right. And we have the new IS curve. Let's put it orange. And as I mentioned, I'm drawing it in a very particular way so that we are fitting what we actually found out. That the new output is equal to 1,500 and the new interest rate is equal to 0. All right. So we have the new output level equal to 1,500. Let me just okay. So this is the new output level, and we have still one more piece of information because we have to do something with the goods market. So what we know is that in the new equilibrium, net exports is necessarily equal to 0, right? This is what we assumed and what is fulfilled in the new equilibrium. So we know that in the new equilibrium, the net exports curve will be crossing the new equilibrium point at the level of 0. And this, of course, determines the location of the new ZZ and DD curve, which I'm going to depict immediately. Of course, the equilibrium point is the crossing between the ZZ curve and the 45 degree line. It is exactly here. So this is the new blue curve, and this is ZZ prime. And of course, the difference in the ZZ curve is the change in governmental expenditures and the change in is it correct? It is correct, yes. The change in exports, all right? Let me just double check it. Okay, correct. So this is delta G, which is negative in our case, okay, plus delta X. Of course, exports itself is not changing. We know this. We know this from the equation of export. This X is not changing, but what is changing is this particular thing, okay? This is making the X minus 1000 R go up, right? Because the R is going down, so this goes up. And that is why the NX curve is shifting, even though the exogenous value of exports is kept constant. It's not that exports is increasing; it's rather that imports is decreasing. That we observe that that there is a trade surplus, trade balance right now, and that NX curve is shifting upwards. Okay, and then what's happening to the DD curve? And it's a bit unfortunate in a way that I drew it. Okay, so I will redraw the initial DD curve. Okay, so that it's in line with what should be there. Okay, so the initial DD curve should be somewhere here. Okay, so this is initial DD curve. You see, it's not easy. It's not easy to have everything that is working, and the new DD curve is somewhere here. So let's call it DD prime. So we have a decrease in the DD curve, which is equal exactly to change in governmental expenditures. Okay. Which is, as you remember, negative. Yeah? And here, well, I assume that this is positive. In fact, when you do the exact math, this dg, which is 40, and this dx that is coming from the change in interest rate is exactly 0. Okay, because this is equal to minus 40, which is plus 40 in terms of shifting, which means that the ZZ curve should not move at all in the let's say exact drawing, but okay, who cares? We still have it drawn correctly. So the initial equilibrium, the new equilibrium over here, okay, so that we have zero net exports, 0 interest rates, larger level of output, and the LM and the IS curve shifting in different directions. Okay, all right, that's all. Hope that it's clear. Okay, did we solve everything here? Answered everything? Yes. What is the blah, 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 depict the initial? Yes, exactly. So we have the new equilibrium depicted in this plane. Now, the next point. Name the economic phenomenon that defines the current state of the economy. Because the state of the economy is not a random one. You see something very, very strange that happened to our economy. You see that the interest rate went down to 0, which is something that normally should not happen, but it does happen very often. And nowadays, in many economies, we have zero or even negative interest rates. But we have a specific name for this particular phenomenon. And this is what I'm asking here in point F. Name this economic phenomenon that defines the current state of the economy. Say when and where it was observable in recent economic history. Interpret it and explain its consequences for the efficiency of monetary policy. How policymakers can overcome it. So those three questions we have here, or even four questions that we have here. The name of this phenomenon, when it was observable, what is the consequence of this phenomenon for the efficiency of monetary policy, and how policymakers can overcome it. All of those questions have already been answered during the lecture. So you have all the means to answer these questions. I will not do it right now so that I don't give you everything for the exam. Just refresh your memory and you will exactly know how to answer those questions. They are not very difficult. So for this part of the exam, you get 10, 15, 18, 28, 33 points. 33 points for solving only this part of the exam. 1/3 of the points. Okay, remember that you pass when you have 45. So there is not really many things to do on top of this to pass the exam. This is really an easy exam, I tell you. Just you have to prepare well for the exam. Okay, so this was the short-term part of the first problem. Now the medium-term part. Now we are returning to the initial economy, but we are analyzing now this economy F in the medium run. So we need a bit more information now. So we have the equation for the unemployment rate, we have the profit margin of firms, we have the total stock of labor in the economy, and we have this function F of the unemployment rate and other unemployment, other factors that determine the state of the labor market, which we disregard right now. We assume it's 1 minus 2u. Okay, and we have point G. We are asked to derive the AD curve in the form of y equal to a function of prices, and the AS curve in the form of prices equal to a function of output. Let us first focus on the AD curve. You know what is the AD curve? We wrote the definition of the AD curve. So AD curve is simply the relation between output and prices so that IS and LM are fulfilled. Okay, and this is the aggregated demand curve. So now let's derive it. So from the IS, we know that output is equal to this in the initial state of the economy. So so we forget about this fiscal and monetary policy we experienced previously. Okay, so we have the IS curve. What about the LM curve? We just copy paste what we had before. LM curve was something like this. Now the question is it enough? Is it enough? Meaning that is it exactly what we need to have to describe the state of the economy? And the answer to this question is obviously not. We are not in the short run, we are in the medium run. And in the medium run, you remember that what matters in the medium run is also the price level. Initially, we assumed that the price level is equal to 1. We disregarded it. The prices did not change in the short run. Now we have to take it into consideration so that the money supply is not only the nominal money supply divided by the price level equal to 1. On the left-hand side of the LM equation, we have the real money supply, which is the nominal money supply divided by the price level, which is not equal to 1, not constant in this medium run. Therefore, our LM equation will be slightly different than what we had before. The 600 will be divided by P. If you do the algebra, you will see it immediately, okay? So the LM curve now changed slightly. So what we have is this IS and LM relation. We know that both of them have to be fulfilled, but we want to have a function that has y and p in it. So we take, I don't know, we take r from the first equation and we will put it into the second equation, right? So our AD, so now we are deriving AD. So AD would be the LM equation in which r is substituted with 1600 minus y over 5000. Okay, this part here comes from the IS equation, the initial one. So let's rewrite this so that we get that the AD curve is equal to y equal to 600 over p, okay, plus here we have 20,000 over 4,000. This is 20,000 over 5,000. This is 4. So we have 4 times 1,600, which is 6,400. Okay. Minus 4y. Okay. So once again, we do a bit of cleaning. We put y on the left-hand side and divide by 5. So that we have y equal to 120 over p plus 6,400 over 5. It's 2080. So we have the AD curve. Now what about the AS curve? Well, we simply follow the definition that you hopefully know from the lecture. The P on the left-hand side is equal to the expected level of prices times 1 plus the margin rate times this F, the labor market part of our model, F of UZ. Okay, fair enough. So let's write it down using the data that we have. We know that mu is equal to 2/3. Oh, sorry, it was here. Okay, so we have 3 over 5 over 3. Oh my god. Okay, so it's 5 over 3. This is 1.1 plus mu, and times f of uz, which is simply 1 minus 2u. Fair enough. Is it the end? No. We want to have the AS curve as a form of price is equal to a function of output. So we still have to substitute for this unemployment rate, all right, using the first equation, so that we get something which is equal to, instead of u, we simply write 1 minus y over L. 1 minus y over, and L is 1825. Correct? Correct. So this is our AS curve, but we still can do a bit more when it comes to simplifying this curve, this equation. On the left-hand side, we have what we had before. We can play around a bit with the term in brackets. Okay, so we have -1 plus y over 912.5. All right. Can we do something more with this? Not more, not much. All right. So this is the final equation for our AS curve, aggregated supply curve. And for this, there are 2 points. Okay, find the medium run equilibrium by computing the equilibrium prices, output, and the interest rate. And what is the value of the UN, which is the natural level of unemployment? Okay, so this is what? This is H already. And what is the condition for the medium run equilibrium? Well, you know it perfectly. It's P equal to P expected. So that individuals do not make error in terms of expecting the actual price level in the medium run. Which means that in our AS equation, we have a very simple situation that prices at the expected price level simply vanish. On the left-hand side, we can have 3 over 5, and this would be equal what we have here in the bracket, okay? So we put the 1 on the left-hand side, so we have 8 over 5 equal to y over this particular number. Sorry. And from this, we can simply compute the equilibrium level of output in the medium run, which is okay, which is 8.5 times this 1460. Okay, fair enough. All right, so what about the equilibrium interest rate? So to compute this, we go back to one of our IS equation, for example, and we have on the left-hand side 1460 minus 1600 over 5000, then there is a minus in front of this. And according to my notes, this is equal to 0.028. Fair enough. And the last thing to compute is the equilibrium price level. And for this, we can use either the IS curve, either the LM curve or the AD curve. So let's maybe use the AD curve. So on the left-hand side, we have 1460 minus 1280. Okay. And this we divide by 120. And everything is power minus 1. It's 1 over, okay? So that we have 180 over 120 power minus 1. It's nothing else but 2 over 3. Fair enough. So we have the whole equilibrium computed. We still need to compute the natural level of unemployment. How to compute this? Well, there are multiple ways of doing this. Maybe the easiest one is simply to use the definition of the unemployment rate, which is 1 minus y over L, which is equal to 1 minus 1460 over 1825, and this is equal to 0.2, 20%. All right, so we have everything right now. Okay, I. What is the new medium run equilibrium when ms prime is equal to 360? So once again, we are asking about the new state of the economy after monetary expansion. Plot the old and the new equilibrium on the yp and yr coordinates. Comment the efficiency of monetary policy in the medium run. So once again, there are all steps to take. First of all, we have to compute the new, this is I. We have to compute the new medium run equilibrium with ms prime equal to 360. How to do it? Many ways of doing this, the easiest thing is to take our AD curve and note that this 120 is exactly the money supply that we plugged in, all right, initially. You can derive it on your own, okay? And instead of 120, we will have 360. Maybe the best thing to do for you guys is simply to take your old IS and LM equations and do the same derivation of the AD curve with the new level of the new level of money supply. Okay, here remember what we had is in the LM curve we had 5 times 100, 5 times 120, 120 being the old level of nominal money supply. Now we have to replace this by 360. When you do the derivation as we did before for the AD curve, you will arrive at this particular form of the AD curve. Okay, so maybe you can do it step by step so that you are not puzzled with what is happening here. Okay, what about the AS curve? The new AS curve is exactly the same as the one we had before, so the AS curve is not changing. All right, which means that in the new equilibrium, necessarily, we will have, of course, the same level of output. Yeah? So this would be the new equilibrium. And the y prime in the new equilibrium would be equal exactly to the one that we had before. Why? Well, because nothing changed to the AS curve, and we know what's the equilibrium condition, okay? What about the interest rate? Well, the interest rate now is going to be exactly the same as before. Why? Well, because once again, if we take our IS curve, which should be here, okay, I agree, it should be here, 5 times 360, all right. So according to the IS curve, since the IS curve did not change, if we have the same y prime, we have the same r prime in the new equilibrium, okay? So it's 0.028. What about the price level? So P prime. How to compute the new price level? Well, to do this, we need to use the LM curve, which now changed. So the price level will be different than in the initial state of the economy. On the left-hand side, maybe we can use this one, okay? On the left-hand side, we also have 1,400 as before. This 1,280 will not change as well. This is this all right, it will not change. What will change is this number over here, which was, you know what, I'll compute it from scratch so that I don't make mistake myself as well. Sometimes it's better to take the longer road, but to be sure that what you compute is correct. Okay, so on the left hand side, what we have is 1,460 minus, we use the LM curve, 20,000 times 0.028. Okay. Let's do it step by step. Okay. So it's not P prime, it's this one. Okay. Y equal to 1,460. On the right hand side, we have 20,000 times R plus this little thing. And this is P prime. Okay. So what we have here is that 1,460 is equal to 20,000 times 2.8, it's 560, correct? Possibly. Plus 1,800 over P prime. Okay. So on the left hand side we have 900. On the right hand side we have 1800 over P prime. So of course we immediately see that the new level of prices is equal to 2. All right, comparing to the old level of prices equal to 2/3. Now, to finish up, comment the efficiency of monetary policy in the medium run. So what is the consequence of the monetary policy in the medium run? The fact that the central bank increased the supply of money. We see that the output did not change. The interest rate did not change. The only thing that changed in the medium run is the price level. So what is the efficiency of the monetary policy? Well, the monetary policy is inefficient in increasing the medium run equilibrium output. The only thing that changed in the new economy is, of course, the price level. And to see this graphically, and this would be the last thing that we will do in this tutorial session, we will plot the old and the new equilibrium on the YP and YR coordinates. And this is this second part of the graph that I plotted here, that I prepared here, so that we can analyze how does the new equilibrium look like in the after the monetary policy. So here we have the standard ISLM short run scheme. So we have the IS curve, we have the LM curve that is increasing, and here we have the ADAS space with prices and output. Okay, so we have a downward sloping AD curve and an upward sloping AS curve. The initial level of output, so the initial equilibrium is 1460. All right, and we are in the medium run equilibrium, so that AS and AD curve they cross, and of course this is correspondent to the initial level, to the medium short run equilibrium in the ISLM model. What is also important here is that the price level in this equilibrium is equal to 2/3, and it's correspondent to this to the price level over there, and the interest rate is 0.028, so that we have everything on the graph. So now what is happening in the short run in the economy? So in the short run, what the central bank is doing is that it's increasing the supply of money. Okay, so the new LM curve is moving to the right hand side, LM prime, because we had monetary expansion. This, of course, in the short run would increase output and would decrease the interest rate. But of course, as we know from our analysis of the ADAS model, this change in monetary policy automatically shifts also the AD curve. And this shift in the AD curve, let me just write it down. Okay. Why the color is not changing? I have no idea. Okay. So this would be the new short-term equilibrium. Okay, no, all right, sure. New short-term equilibrium, which should be followed by this the shift in the AD curve. This is exactly what we know from the analysis of the medium run equilibrium. An increase in monetary in the supply of money shifts the AD curve to the right hand side. This is one of the initial slides of the 4.1 lecture. All right, this you have to know. So we have the new level of AD curve, say AD prime. So we have the shift, and the question is whether this point, the point, let me do it better. So we have the new AD curve. Jesus, it takes so much time. This is my computer, don't worry. All right, and now the question is whether the new point here is the new medium run equilibrium. Is it? Well, of course not. It is the short run equilibrium, but it's not the medium run equilibrium. Why? Because the actual price level is somewhere here, while the expected price level of individuals is somewhere here, while the actual price level in the economy is somewhere here. So you see that individuals are not perfectly internalizing the level of prices. Okay, they have to readjust their expectations. So how they do this? They do this by increasing their expected level of prices. And we know what happens when the expected level of prices goes up in the economy. Actually, what happens in this situation is that the AS curve shifts upwards, shifts initially to this position. Okay, let's call it AS prime. And once again, the question is it the new medium run equilibrium? No, it is not, because still the actual level of prices in the economy, which is here, is not equal to the expected level of prices, which is somewhere here. So this change in the equilibrium prices will take place until people don't internalize perfectly prices, so that the new AS curve is not crossing the same natural level of output as before. Okay, so it's AS, let's say star, the equilibrium level. Okay, so this would be the medium run equilibrium. What about the short runs? So we know that as long as the prices are increasing, okay, in the economy, so that the AS curve is shifting upwards, what happens is that the real stock of money is decreasing. Real stock of money being obviously money supply over the price level. And what does it cause to the LM curve? Well, since the real supply of money is decreasing in the medium run, the LM curve is going back to where it came from, which means that the new level of the final level of the or the final allocation of the LM curve would be exactly the same as it was in the initial equilibrium. Oh my god, I wanted to be smart and it didn't work out. Damn it. All right, so the final level would be exactly equal to the initial level. Why? Because as you can see, the ratio of money supply to prices is going to be constant in the old and in the new economy. Let's compute MS over P in the old economy. It was 120, if I'm not mistaken, 20 over 2 over 3, right? This was the initial price level, and this was equal to 180, okay? And what is MS prime over P prime in the new equilibrium of the economy? Well, is the new money supply 360 over the new price level 2, which is the same as before. So the left hand side of the LM curve is exactly the same, which means that we are moving back to the exactly same LM curve as we had before. Okay, and the last thing to note here on the graph is that the new price level, which is over here, which is the equilibrium, medium run equilibrium price level, is equal to 2, right? That's all. All right, hopefully this is understandable. There is still last point of this pretty long question. Write the definition of real exchange rate and explain what it means. Assuming that the nominal exchange rate and prices in the foreign country are constant, analyze the effect that the introduced monetary policy, well, this one here, has on the real exchange rate. Using the Marshall-Lerner condition, describe in words or symbols what would probably happen to exports, imports, and net exports in the medium run if all of these aggregates were functions of the real exchange rate. All of these meaning exports, imports, and net exports, of course. To solve this question or to answer this question, you have all the means in the lectures and in the textbook. So hopefully you will be able to answer it yourself. I will not give you everything the same as one question before. So this is left for you to solve on your own. So what is the plan for the next days, next hours? I will still wait for some questions if there are some from your side. If there are none, we see each other in 2 weeks, and we will do something related to international trade, and then we will do something related to the crises, the currency crises, the trade tariffs and its impact on welfare, and then I think I will put a lot of stuff regarding the current coronavirus crisis and its macroeconomic impact and the policies that are implemented. All right, so we will have kind of policy oriented 2 lectures ahead of us. And the last thing is the tutorial number 3, which we will focus on those policy related questions and discussions. But still, remember, if you still have some questions regarding the crisis lecture, the medium run lecture, don't hesitate to write an email. If there are some questions which I would like to cover, I will send you an email, or I will make a short video answering some of those questions. For now, hopefully all is clear. Stay at home, stay safe, and see you in 2 weeks.